Tim and his wife are so fed up with all the problems with their brand new travel trailer that they stopped using it. And Tim says,
There's going to be more problems. I know there is, and I know they didn't fix these problems properly.
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm an RV consumer advocate helping people stuck in a nightmare. I've been able to get factory repairs, cash settlements, extended warranties, and over $2 million refunded to customers. None of this could happen without you liking, subscribing, and sharing, making this channel the force that it is. Today, Tim shares his frustrating experience with his new RV. You'll probably lose count of the number of problems that they had. And be sure to see Jayco's response later in the video.
It's a 2024 Heartland Eddie Bauer 34 BHS. In 2023, my wife and I, we were looking at the Eddie Bauers, and they just came out with them. Checked it out, we liked it, went out there to go get it. Salespeople were nice over at Camping World. They helped us out, got us put into it. It seemed very vague when they gave us the run through about going through and everything and how to do everything. So we're like, oh, it's okay. You know, it was getting late in the evening, and we're like, all right, we gotta get home. It was getting kind of dark. I don't want to get into the negative right away, but I kind of have to because it started out negative from that day. I noticed I didn't have any brake lights and the turn signals were messed up. I may have had one tail light, so I'm like, all right, this isn't good. But they're closing soon. It's almost getting dark. We have to go home. So we headed home. So that was a little bit dangerous. We started using it right away. We used it at the campground. Everything seemed fine at first, but then we started noticing these problems and they started adding up. We didn't have any hot water. The shower wasn't draining. The shower was actually leaking too. It was leaking outside of the shower, like the surround wasn't siliconed properly. The furnace kept blowing a fuse, which was tied into the refrigerator and I believe the microwave. So then once the furnace blew, then the refrigerator would shut off. The speaker wires were mixed up. Instead of being outside and inside, there was one inside paired with an outside speaker. Right away, my wife and I are like, okay, what's going on here? You know, this is crazy. So I reached out to the service manager. He was very nice. He sent me some silicone because he told me that other people were having the same problems with this camper. And then I happened to go up on the roof for some reason, and I noticed that there were holes in 3 corners of the roof. And I'm like, well, this ain't good. So I'm like, this camper's brand new and we already have holes in the roof. So I reached out to him. He noticed it was a problem. He actually sent me caulk to caulk the roof so that it wouldn't get any worse. And I said, hey, we're still having a bunch of problems here. So he actually sent out 2 of his service guys to come out. They were there for almost the whole day while we were at the campground repairing all these problems. And they both had been in the business for 20 plus years as camper mechanics. They fixed the tail lights. They tried to fix the shower. They found out it needed a new atmospheric vent. And so they diagnosed that, but they could not fix it because they needed one. There was a hole in the kitchen floor that they had to repair. They said they could only do that when it was at the service department. The awning didn't work. They had to pull the switch panel off. It wasn't even plugged in. My wife and I were just kind of distraught. Like, hey, you know, have you seen? Is this normal? Have you seen this many problems on new campers? And he's like, I've been in the business, like I said, for 20 plus years. I've never seen this many problems on a brand new camper. So that was kind of disheartening. They fixed a few of the problems the best they could so that we could actually use it. It was, you know, things like the water heater wasn't even plugged in. It was like, okay, did they do any PDI on this thing or did they do any inspection? So I reached out to Camping World and I reached out to Heartland and I asked them, I mean, do these campers go through any quality control and inspection? They said, oh yeah, of course they do. But obviously that was not true. We used it for a few more months. Finally, I got some time to take it in. It was at Camping World in their service area. The furnace kept blowing a fuse, so rather than fix the wiring, all they did was add a larger fuse, which I've been in construction for a little bit of my life, and I don't know what the wire is rated for, but every fuse in that panel was a 15 amp, and they added a 20 amp, and I thought that was a little dangerous because you're not supposed to add more amperage to a small wire that's only rated for 15 amp. The wiring was all messed up, so I didn't really trust anything else in the wiring after that. There's probably more problems that I'd see. The black tank indicator, it always read full. When it was at the service department, they were able to take down the tank and put in a new probe. They siliconed the outside compartments. They would take on some water so that created some mold inside the paneling. When you fill up the water tank, then when you get about 2/3 full, then it would spit water back at you. Come to find out, the hose was kinked. The air conditioning, this was kind of a later problem we noticed. It never really cooled the inside very well. Their solution was to add another AC unit. They said it was plumbed in for that, but I thought that was kind of odd. It should cool the unit if that's how it comes from the factory. The holes in the corners of the roof, they said, well, we need to take it back. We'll see if we can get this under warranty. Heartland did not cover it, so they ended up caulking the whole roof. So, I mean, there could be potential water damage, mold damage inside the walls. I don't know. The shower surround, they re-siliconed it. I did the best I could, but it still leaked a little bit. There was some water that leaked behind the vanity, so there could be some water damage back there, but they did not take the vanity out to check back there. All they did was just re-silicone the shower. The kitchen sink P-track leaked. They said they tightened it. That was still loose, so there was a little bit of water damage inside the cabinet. There was a small hole in the half bathroom. You could see daylight to the outside. They siliconed that up. When it was there, the slide quit working. Another wiring problem. The radio would work once in a while. Sometimes it would freeze, and you couldn't shut it off. I think it was there for about 5 to 6 months by the time they had to get parts and putting everything back together. I got the unit back, and I was so fed up. I said, there's going to be more problems. I know there is, and I know they didn't fix these problems properly.
When I'm traveling, I only need 3 things to keep bringing you videos: a powerful computer, internet, and a really good VPN. When you're traveling and using your computer on the road, it's so important to be safe and protected. That's why I use Surfshark, and I want to thank them for being the sponsor of today's video. Surfshark is a powerful app and browser extension that keeps you safe and private online. This VPN protects your identity with encryption between your device and the internet, keeping you secure from hackers while you're on public Wi-Fi. You can use your bank and other financial services safely while traveling. Additionally, you can change your location with just one click in order to access websites that may be blocked in your country. Try it yourself. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to surfshark.com/LizAmazing or use the coupon code LizAmazing at checkout, and you'll get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN.
So we got it back. The kitchen table was loose. That wasn't loose when we brought it there. The fuse panel actually popped out of the area where it's mounted when we took it home. We noticed that when we got it back to our house. This camper just wasn't built properly, and I don't know how it even went to the market, and there's still problems with it, new problems, so I have to bring it in the third time, and there's also problems that when it was at the shop the second time that never got fixed properly. They just kind of put a Band-Aid on it. So I didn't even want the thing back, and every time I would call somebody, they would send me over to the next regional manager or the next manager. I would always get somebody else. It was so frustrating. I couldn't grasp around a company selling something like this. We were so upset, we just spent I don't know, 55, 60 grand on this camper. I told him, I said, I can't take my family in this. I mean, I don't feel safe in this thing. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. We could be across America and something's go wrong. We'll be able to get home. We get stranded somewhere. That's just going to be another headache. So I don't want to take my family in it. It's just going to be a heartache every time we go camping. I asked them, I said, how come you guys don't buy something like this back? And they just kind of said, well, pretty much like it's your problem. You bought it, So I've talked to the service manager. I've talked to the general manager. They had me call a couple other regional managers. I talked to somebody in customer service, like a head of even higher up than the regional managers, and I tell them my story, tell them what's going on. They say, sorry about that. There's really nothing we can do. You can bring it back, we'll fix it, but that's about it. Every time I keep calling these people to try to have them render the problems, they send me to another regional manager, and it's like, yeah, pretty much, yeah, sorry, there's nothing we can do at this point. I did contact Heartland. They said, yep, not our problem. They said, that's Camping World's problem, pretty much. They were no help at all. I even offered. I said, hey, I mean, would you guys be willing to come out here and look at this camper? I'd be happy to show it to you and the problems I've been having so that you guys can, build these things a little bit better and so that this doesn't happen on newer campers. And they said, no, we don't do something like that. And I said, okay. Well, I said, well, do these campers go through any quality control or inspection? And they said, of course they do. And I said, well, this one, I've had numerous problems with it. And then they quit talking to me. We've learned a lot going through this, that you really have to get an inspection on these things, even if they're brand new. I really couldn't believe it, until I started to research. I just couldn't believe the amount of people having camper problems. It's ruining people's lives. It's hurting people financially. They've fixed it, but it's still not proper. I have a list from Camping World about 35, 40 problems. Obviously, this thing was not gone through any inspection or any testing. So, I mean, I could be going down the road and a wheel could fall off. Something could break. I quit paying on the camper. I've been paying on it for 2 years. And finally, I told the lien holder, I said, I said, I can't keep paying on this thing. I said, this thing's junk. So I'm trying to work with the lien holder, and I'm saying, you're going to have to go after Camping World or Heartland to try to get your money, because I am not going to pay on this thing when I'm paying on something that I can't even use, and it's going to have problems constantly. It's hurting me that way. It's hurting my credit, but I'm at the point where I don't even care anymore. And it's been a nightmare since day one. We had plans to check out quite a few campgrounds, state parks. We love to do that stuff. And then all these problems arose. So that's on hold right now until we can get through this situation. So we put off our camping life, just sitting in the driveway. I would just love for them to buy it back and just wash my hands of it. I mean, I would be happy if Heartland would just buy it back, and I would respect the company a lot more. Just want to get out of it. I hope that these companies clean up their act a little bit and sell a product that's worthy to be sold. I pray and I hope that these camper companies, RV companies, fix these problems and start doing some more buybacks so that they don't keep ruining people's lives. I'm sorry for all the people that are going through the same issues, the same problems.
Heartland is now under Jayco. Jayco, as you know, is owned by Thor. So I reached out to the top people at Thor and Jayco, and they called Tim right away. Jayco called, and the first thing they did was they pointed out that Tim's warranty expired almost a year ago. However, they're still willing to make things right. They're still willing to work on his trailer. So Jayco has offered factory repairs, and Tim is still pushing for a buyback. So they're in discussions right now. I will keep you updated. I will let you know on the outcome. What do you think Jayco should do for Tim? Let me know in the comments. And one thing that will make a huge difference is to get this video out there so more people can weigh in. So thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and I'll see you in the next video.